I promised you guys I was going to take part in that. I did take part, and you saw what happened. Unfortunately, I became part of the news, which shouldn't have happened. But again, thanks to the brutish, unprofessional nature of our police service, that happened. But they are taking on another challenge. I mean, protesting itself is a challenge, to protest a whole month in December. When it first came out, I was like, how is this going to work out? Okay, so if you choose 15th, whose program are you avoiding, whose own are you attending? So they would rather spoil it for everyone. I don't know, maybe that's the science behind it. I don't know what the science is. But the mind behind it, it was one of those who were arrested in the first one. We'll be talking about that OccupyJulorbiHouse first, and then post-OccupyJulorbiHouse, the issues that came out. And then OccupyJulorbiHouse in December, dirty December, is protest December. Does he think this method, this style, would work? He says the country has already taken 7 years of his life, so protesting a month is nothing. My guest is lawyer, and also lead convener for Fix the Country movement and OccupyJulorbiHouse, Oliver Barker. Thank you very much for joining us. Right. First of all, were you surprised at the turn of events for OccupyJulorbiHouse? I want us to talk about the first one, and we'll go to the second one. Were you surprised at the turn of events? Day one, you showed up, you were arrested even before the process began, and then the subsequent issues.
I mean, in some regard, you kind of anticipated it as well, because you had asked this direct question what the police were going to do.
Yes.
And we had a conversation about that. I think in many respects, a lot of the times when we are planning for protest, knowing some of the things that have happened in the past with us, we plan in contemplation of what the police might do. Yeah. And we kind of anticipated, in terms of how the communications was going, that they would attempt something. It wasn't clear to us what the nature of that attempt would look like. But I think what was important to us, and we said to ourselves that we're going to go ahead as a matter of principle.
Right.
And that's kind of what we decided to do ultimately in going forward on the day. Now, in the morning, one would think that maybe, to ground their case, if they really believed in the justice of their case, that they would in fact allow us to protest, and then he said, okay, unlawful assembly. But they rounded us up just when we had arrived. I think that subsequently there were 3 other vehicles of people that were brought. So it means that immediately people arrived,
they picked them up.
They picked them up.
And what this strategy of sending them to various police stations was to weaken the whole strength or the weight of the OccupyJulorbiHouse.
No, I think that was what the experience was. Particularly so, for instance, when we were first initially arrested, one of the things we said to everybody was that, okay, if they ask you who your lawyer is, I am your lawyer. Right. So that I was demanding them to be present for anybody's statement to be taken, even in terms of our devices.
But you were arrested.
I was arrested as well.
So
and I said that, well, professionally, I am not disabled from exercising my profession. Right. It's the same way if, for instance, a medical doctor was arrested and found somebody who had collapsed, they are a doctor first. And so that's kind of my thinking in the conversation. And I said, in any event, it is much more protective of police work to indicate that there was a legal advisor who was present there. If they're not up to any mischief, I think that even angered them. The idea that somebody was identifying and wanted to provide legal representation, they had even no patience in terms of taking our devices from us. I said, why don't you just record each individual, their names, what kind of device? They didn't want to hear anything of it. So even that took a long period of back and forth before they even started writing people's names.
Okay.
So when I self-identified, the first thing they did was that I was immediately isolated and taken away somewhere else. So I think I spent
Were you moved around?
No, I was sent directly to Railway Police Station.
Okay.
I didn't even know it existed. And then locked up. So I didn't even know what had happened to anybody. I didn't know people had been spread out. Like, I just knew that nobody was coming to where I was, and I was isolated.
You didn't have a phone with you?
I had nothing with me.
So take me to that cell. You're there. And you knew that you would be bailed at some point. You knew that it's the modus operandi of the police, right? What was going to your mind?
My expectation was that we're going to be going to court. That's what I think we're going to charge and go through the whole process. So, I mean, going in there, when I was first arrested and sent to the station, in the morning, I hadn't taken my BP medication. I wasn't known. And so one of the things I said to them was that I was worried about that. Yeah. And so can I get access to a medical doctor or at least get the medicine? They said they couldn't do anything and that they would have to hear from headquarters. And so then I was logged in. So I was sent in there. And from my previous experience, I knew then who to talk to and to immediately look for the cell leader, introduce myself and all of that. So I went through all that process. My worry then was all the first timers who had been arrested for the first time, the psychological effect it would have on them. Because I think that for myself and a number of people who are involved in our mobilizing, that's happened to us so many times that it has lost the power that they think it has over us, the idea that we'll arrest you and put, it doesn't have that effect anymore. So just settling into my environment, sitting down, I got some playing cards for myself and the inmates. We're playing cards, we formed ourselves into teams, and then talking to them about, because every time I'm in there, I'm like, okay, it's another opportunity to evangelize what it is we're fighting for. One of the things, particularly about the criminal justice system, is that the police have found ways, they don't only get 1 cedis on the street, but they found ways to monetize even people's jail experiences, whether to give them food.
I know some persons who are arrested paid 800 cedis, 150 to avoid being beaten, being assaulted by police.
And those are monies that the police take from cell leaders as well. So they have, even people going to court, the parents have to come and pay them, whether you get a slipper. All these things are things that they are making business of people's incarceration and pain. You know, so those stories I'm familiar with and having conversations with people in there.
At what point did you have a contact with anyone on the outside?
So I think about 3 hours in, then I was taken out and said there were some people from headquarters who had come to charge. They said they were coming to take a caution statement. So usually when you're arrested, they do a caution statement, which is an investigative caution statement. Then they're supposed to investigate and determine whether or not there's a basis to charge you. So then they came, and then I insisted on having a lawyer. They said they are unable to provide. I insisted on medical attention. Again, I repeated to them. They said they are unable to provide. And so they said, well, okay, if you give us a statement, we'll then consider the doctor thing. So I made sure that the statement indicated that the police were holding healthcare as ransom, in essence, right? So for me, that's what the statement would be. Like, it is my statement to craft. So I make sure that all the experiences that have happened to me, I document it. And that's one of the things. A lot of times we advise people, for instance, I'm a lawyer, so I know what to state down and what not to state. Our advice to anybody who's arrested during the protest is to not write any statement at all. And if they insist and continue to push, which the police do a lot of the times, you just write that I'm asking for my lawyer and have been denied my right to a lawyer. And that's it. You don't have to write anything or say anything further. So that's my first contact with the outside world. And then I was sent back in again. So I think I was there till the late afternoon. And this is how I got to find out. So a lot of the lawyers, when this happened, they prioritized the others. Because they said, okay, he is fine. He's going to be fine. And I think it's a smart thinking on their part.
Yeah, but then here again, medical condition.
So of course, so they didn't know that. But in terms of the legal responses, they're like,
knew that you can
we know he's here, so we'll deal with the others. And I think it's a smart decision making on their part, because I was also always worried about whether the resolve of those persons who were new were going to be broken when they were incarcerated. At that point, I still didn't know they had been separated till I think Justice Sai and then Honorable Inusa Hussaini were the first ones who came, because I later heard that he said he was driving and headed on radio.
Did they tell you what had happened? Because
I had no idea.
You didn't know this
I had absolutely no idea. So Justice, actually, later when I came out, somebody was saying that he had called Justice to find out how I was doing, and he told the person that this guy has no clue the kind of hula baloo that's happening outside the cell. Like, I was just there, I was like, okay, these persons haven't eaten. Can you bring them some bread? We need some water. They need cleaning
and they
products.
Didn't tell you?
No, so they just kind of assured and made sure that things were going. So I had no idea till I was released at almost 10 p.m.
And then the others were all released before you. So probably you were probably the last to be released.
No, there was another station, I think the Central, for one of them, that we walked. So when I was released, we walked all the way there. But when we got there, they had also already been released by the time we got there. You know.
And then you come out and you realize that, oh my God, what just happened?
Yes,
and
so I came out and realized, I came out and realized that, man, this has been crazy. But the good thing was that some of our conveners had held a press conference and saying that we're coming out again the next day. And that was important. So as I was in there, that my hope was that we had planned for the first time in our history a 3-day protest. And despite the arrest on the first day, I was hoping that people would show up on the second day and would show up as a message of resistance. And that they're already taking care of that, and people were clear that we're going to come out the next day. And so just to go home, refreshen up, and prepare for the next day and come out again. Okay,
so now you are out, even before the second day, but you're out, and you've seen the actions of the police which escalated everything, got international attention, to arresting, journalists. In fact, I was so happy that the BBC reporter, recorded himself sitting behind the police pickup while under arrest. Even the police statement to the opposite, that they had not arrested him. And then you came out and you're reading all these things. And what is going through your mind exactly?
One of the things that I have been always very deeply frustrated about is the informational relationship or asymmetry between what institutions release a statement and when we speak. I'll give an example. Even in terms of the protest coverage, you were the only one who kind of gave prominence to in terms of covering it. The others, it was after the police released a statement saying that they're not going to allow people to protest. That's when they started covering.
Because they thought that would defeat and diffuse the momentum.
There seems to be some partial, I don't know what it is, in terms of when police release a statement.
Maybe it's a systemic thing.
It's a really systemic thing. Yeah. So just the fact that the police denied and all of those things, the way some people are reporting it, even though a lot of media houses knew that Thomas and others had been picked up. But yet they went ahead and reported these statements as facts. I'm always fascinated by how we refuse to take the police or institutions on more squarely when we know clearly they are lying by the statements they put out. I was also kind of interested to see, and one of the things that we have from the very beginning we're talking about is that for what we are doing to succeed, it has to become decentralized. So I was very impressed by the spontaneity of people on social media who started organizing themselves, had no idea about who were organizing the protest, and then started, okay, we need food, we need water, we need this. Yeah. So that alternative sprung up, different modes of organizing.
Because they can identify with the substance of the whole demonstration.
So that impressed me, people taking initiative and going out and saying,
And here is the thing, the same police that touched, brutalized, arrested, stripped, young men who were protesting, in their boxes, in cells, gave them same opportunity the second day.
Yeah.
Like, why do they always mess up and try to make up? I don't get it. Why?
I think that a lot of the times our institutions are reading the body language and tone of the government. And I think, because to be honest, I mean, I have a lot of people in the police service who are friends of mine. Particularly even just knowing the fact that I'm a barracks boy myself. My mom is a police officer. So a lot of them identify with me. They see their own children in me, in what I'm doing. And I know that there's a tremendous support within the police service for what we are doing. But I think that a lot of the times when it comes higher up, the politics takes over reasoning and humanity. And because of the nature of the service we have structured, is that you have to be able to obey whatever command you are given if they are told. Because what was done wasn't something that some police officers on the ground did on the spur of the moment. They brought a bus and stationed it even before we got there. It was waiting to pick people up. So this was
and if you're wearing red or black, they just picked you
This is what the plan was, that we were going to do this, right? Now, what I found fascinating was the idea that the Greater Accra Regional Command picked us up, sent us into a room, locked us up, and brought in these individuals who, were wearing earrings, who said they claimed they were police intelligence, and unleashed them on us to beat us up. Yeah. That's the part that I find I don't understand. Because if you do genuinely think as a democracy that we have broken the law, then your duty is to act professionally within the confines of that law and processes for court. Okay. But to unleash individuals onto citizens to beat them up is one of the things that I would always struggle with in terms of what they did.
So the police statement clearly did not diffuse or defeat the purpose for which. In fact, what the police action on the first day did was to actually inspire and encourage more people to come out. Second day, I think people were a little cautious. The statement before the first day was actually to put some sort of fear in young people's hearts that if you came out, the police would either attack you, brutalize you, which they did on the first day. So they kind of reduced the numbers. But post that, second day, third day, we saw the numbers increase. And all of that has still not shattered or discouraged you. And you say you're going to do that in December? A whole month?
I mean, one of the things that we have come to believe is that the reason why we have had the kind of democracy we've had for 30 years is because we are not seeing that consistency of actions and refusal to back down the demands we are making from officialdom. And we have to be able to instill that to change the dynamics of our politics. And one of the things I say is that irrespective of who wins in 2024, they're going to find a different Ghanaian youth. And we have to be able to prepare the Ghanaian youth towards a different kind of engagement with the system to demand better and be more aggressive in the demands we are making of the system. So when we say we are building a protest culture, we mean it in every sense of the word. They're not just protests and coming onto the street to protest, but speaking up in the different forms that you can organize to speak up. And so for us, it's always about pushing the boundaries of what we can do as young people in demanding different. So like this whole idea of, let's try the 3-day protest.
Okay.
A lot of the time the protest
novelty,
is coming,
yes.
it's challenging that novelty. Can young Ghanaians sustain their demand for advocacy? What about if we push it to the ridiculous heights of a month? And even when I say ridiculous, mind you, young people in Hong Kong stayed on the street for 6 months. So we are not yet there. But our approach is that let us build gradually towards that point.
But you have young people who have raised, who are resisting the current modus, who have raised concerns about the whole month, because even though they want to process, I think there's a part of them that wants to do the 30 December. What do you say to that?
Now, so I think that because this has not happened before, people are unsure about what the structure and format would look like.
What would it be?
So a lot of people who are sympathizers of this feel like to fully support, I have to be on the ground for 31 days. No, we are not demanding that of you.
Okay.
We would have organizers who are going to be on the ground for 31 days to ensure that everything goes according to plan. But what we have is that we're going to roll out in November how the protest schedule would look like. So that there are days when you would have to determine for yourselves, why am I coming out for this day? There are going to be specific days which are themed for different things.
Okay.
So if it is about healthcare, which you are passionate about, you know that this Saturday
a day where you will
is
come
a
out and
healthcare
protest.
Related
Makes
issue.
sense now. Makes
If
sense.
it is something about police brutality, you know that this is the day I come out.
I'm coming out
on
that day.
So this is exactly. So the different things that you connect with, that you have to be able to give people different things to connect with and come out to protest. But this thing is creating a space for resistance for 31 days. Okay. And even if we told ourselves...
But there will be men on the ground every single day.
There will be men on the ground every single day as organizers to ensure that this is what is supposed to happen.
I can assure you the police will be on the ground. You know,
the police are going to be on the ground.
When it first came out, I think my tweet, I can't remember the exact thing I said, but I tweeted something in support of, oh God, we've given... you have given Ghana police work to do throughout December. I mean, I was like, this is to punish Ghana police throughout December, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, the thinking is, even on specific day, we'll kind of decide, like even the 3-day format, right? We had, the second day, for instance, was going to be educational. We're going to be telling you about Ghanaian history, about people's rights, about the mobilizing for independence, what the founding fathers went through, things like that. We want to be able to infuse educational things in our protests as well. Because the key part of being able to organize is also about education and people's knowledge about the meaning of protest, why this is significant, why you are doing some of the things you're doing. Being able to be top of the figures, and even in terms of who you're speaking to, it is important. One of the things we say we wanted to avoid is placards without knowledge, we say, which is that people holding the placard without deep connection to the issues.
Yes,
we are breaking that barrier in many respects. So that's kind of why the format is going to be. There's probably even going to be a day where individual organizers will be there. We're not going to ask individuals to show up, but there's going to be a flame burning. So like different modes of showing you what resistance looks like is one we're going to be exploring with. And we are asking people to trust in their own creativity. Yeah. You know, and that's what we want to be able to show and see on that day. For us, it's a test also of our ability to mobilize. You will be out
31 days.
Yes. I know. It's a test of our ability to mobilize and reach people beyond even just social media. It's reaching to people in different communities. Those are all part of what we want to be able to.
Well, what do you think were some of the successes of OccupyJulorbiHouse 1 that has pushed you? I mean, despite not getting like direct response, of course, we got some rather scanty response from the youth wing of the party on, fixing the country. Yeah. What do you think were some of the successes of?
So I'll start first with the response. Yeah. One of the things that we have always said is that our protest is not directed at the government. We don't believe that they have the capacity, willingness, and interest to listen to us. That we are speaking directly to the heart of Ghanaians.
Okay.
So this for us is a message to again resonate with young Ghanaians across the country. And that's what it's going to be again. One of the successes of OccupyJulorbi is one of the things we have always said is that for people to show that they're in fact fighting something, it has to be able to bleed into every area of our life. Our music must carry the message of our resistance. You have to see songs being composed that show that we are in a particular time in our lives that we need change. It has to be able to show our art must reflect our advocacy. And we saw that happen in OccupyJulorbi. That persons in the, whether in the arts industry or whatever, felt that no, they could not sit on the sidelines. That is the kind of culture we want to be able to create in all segments of our society. Particularly now, and what we are hoping for is how we get organized labor to work through its political divisions and show up as well. And that is important to us. So bringing every aspect of our society is a key part of what we are trying to do. The other thing that we want to be able to move on towards is how we bring others not in Accra into the conversation. So our mobilization contemplates being able to bring people from the other 15 regions into Accra. It depends on how much we're able to mobilize, depends on the support we're able to get. A lot of the times people have talked about why not just do it simultaneously across the regions. But trust me, and let's be honest, we do not have the organizational capacity to manage 16 simultaneous protests.
Even though the issues demand that we do so.
Well, our thing is that we cannot call for a protest unless we have been able to go down and done the community mobilization. We have the institutional infrastructure in terms of water, feeding, all of that. We have a team in place that is handling it. It is not just announcing that people come out for protest and then that's it. So we haven't gotten there. These are two of our biggest dreams. One, to bring 1 million people, Ghanaians, onto the streets of Accra, and two, to have a simultaneous protest across the nation. That's part of our objective. And so we are working ourselves towards that. We've just done the three days, and when people thought it was even possible. Yeah. So let's get there. When we get to the month, and people, it's a showcase and a test of our own mobilized organizational skills. It can then create appetite for, okay, can we then protest, even if it's the northern sector or the middle belt and this, then we are building up our own capacity as young people. It's a longer fight.
Okay. So I was asking about, what do you think were some of the direct success?
So in terms of direct success, one of the things is that
came out of
as far as we are concerned, one, the number of people that the message was oriented to throughout the country. Two, the number of people who have volunteered, who have come out to volunteer for what we are doing. I mean, now we are at a point where we are coming up with tests. We're making people take tests to screen the number of people who just want to volunteer. It's just an avalanche of people who says that we want to do this, we want to put our hands in the dirt and also be part of the organization. That for us is the most critical part of what we are trying to achieve. Just a lot of people who have a sense of civic duty and says that this is the work I do and I want to be able to do more. The third thing is the sporadic sprinting up of the different organization points and decentralized parts of the thing. And even now as we're having these conversations, we as Fix the Country Democracy Hub are official organizers. But trust me, we have had different conversations with different groups that are mobilizing in their own different circles of how to do this. In fact, interestingly, even in my own private professional work as a lawyer, somebody came into a client came into office, didn't know that was the law firm I was working for, and said, oh, actually I've been looking for you. Because in our space, we had a meeting about how do we support Occupy Julorbi, and these are the initiatives they were doing on their own, completely disconnected from what we are trying to do. So that sense of the ripple effect has always been what we are seeking to achieve.
Well, it was in Berlin, right? Was it in Berlin?
So there was in Berlin as well. There was in New York as well.
Oh, and London was. There
was in London as well. So that continuous ripple effect of what we are trying to do, we are interested to see how that grows and continue to channel it. Now, what about? I don't like to even start calling. I think at some point, our language around what we are doing would shift from protest to rally, because I think that protest even gives the idea of a particular system, but we are not. I think we have made it. We've become clear to us that the institutions that we are trying to show advocacy to are not responding. That we have to rally ourselves towards building a different alternative for ourselves, and that's where it's going to be going more in the direction of, I think.
Okay. Then the issue of the talking points. Yeah. You had some very eloquent, vociferous, passionate speakers, protesters. Yeah. And one that really stood out, I think one of the successes is the issue of dialysis. The young lady who spoke about, a man who had taught for several decades, unable to pay for dialysis. Yeah. And then it comes out that dialysis had actually gone up by over 100%. Absolutely. And that became a national conversation. As we speak, the president says, there has to be a committee and the Ministry of Health to look at if we can, capture that on that. I mean, I want your thoughts on that conversation and what happened to that young lady who spoke about it.
One of the things which we have always been very clear on, and one of the biggest demands, we have 3 demands, standing demands as an organization. 1, we have called for a new constitution for a new generation, which you're aware of. 2, we've called for a new economic charter with Ghanaians that gives us certainty about the economic future. But the third one is calling for a national reconciliation process, where the mic is given to ordinary Ghanaians to tell you the experiences of our democracy. Because we did a reconciliation to catalogue the military years, but we haven't catalogued the experiences of 30 years of a democracy. And just trust Ghanaians and give them the mic. So if Ghanaians are allowed to tell their ordinary story of their interface with the system, the stories and the lived experiences of people might get us to rethink this project and how do we truly connect it back for people to have trust in the whatsoever society we are building. For those for us are manifestations of persons who in their everyday lives would have been talking about these things, but the protests allow the media to shine and give them the microphone.
Yeah.
Right?
It's become a national conversation on the dialysis. Again, then Kolebu comes out to say that, oh, it's not true, it hasn't gone through money. And they were taking it. Fortunately, people kept receipts. Again, we will talk about even the Ghana.
The idea of our institutions continuing to feel so comfortable to deny what is fact without any sense of accountability is part of the problem.
Yeah.
But yet, Nasiba, for instance, did a very fantastic job.
Yeah.
And just people connected, I think, to the passion of what she was talking about and the way you speak it. Because a lot of the times, people are aware of a particular problem, but their sense of urgency and understanding of how they shouldn't accept something doesn't carry through unless you have somebody who is effective in communicating. I think she did a brilliant job. Unfortunately, the repercussions of it has become a question of national.
So we will talk more about the repercussions after the break. For Nasiba, I'm a governor, 2 days to graduation. General Legal Counsel says, look, we still don't think that you fit this institution. What really is her crime? Did the protest have anything to do with it? For a lot of people, yes, it did. And I think so too. After the break, we'll talk about that and the implications of what they intend to do. Will that encourage more people, young people, or rather discourage them? We'll be right back.
Step into success with Accra Business School. Boost your career with a prestigious MSc degrees from KNUST. Pick from Human Resource Management, Communication and International Relations, Public Affairs. In just 12 months, our MBA can be yours. Dive into our BSc programs in IT Security and Cybercrime, IT Management and Business and Management, endorsed by top universities in Ireland and Wales. We offer flexible entry, payment and learning options. It's time to unlock your potential and take flight. Visit www.abs.edu.gh or dial 0263 888 555. Let Accra Business School elevate your future today.
Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say. But as humans, aging and physical infirmity stands our way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. With portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVs, you are assured of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. It's a self-supported elevator for vertical movement of humans and goods at homes and offices. The original comes in 3 custom-made models with wheelchair accessibility. Call it luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home. It's affordable and can be installed in just 3 days without modification to your existing building. It's however easier to incorporate it at the construction stage. We also have traditional Fuji elevators and escalators for your high-rise buildings and malls. Visit Lifts and Elevators Company Limited at Sakumono for your elevators nationwide. For free consultation to call or WhatsApp us on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators, the elevator people.
For over 20 years of serving the world with herbal and alternative medicine, we've been successful in treating complicated medical conditions with a perfect combination of herbal and alternative methods of treatments like homeopathy, naturopathy, reflexology, and many more. We deliver excellent and effective service to people from all walks of life through scientific and traditional means. We have a well-equipped laboratory with advanced diagnostic and treatment devices to help detect your illness, so we know the right medication to be given. At Amen Scientific Herbal and Alternative Medical Hospital, we are proud manufacturers of our own herbal medication. Our zeal and passion to save lives with our patients at heart and outstanding achievements since 1996 has won us several awards. That is why we say, go herbal, go Amen. We are located everywhere in all the regions. Amen Scientific Herbal and Alternative Medical Hospital. Allahu Shafi. God is the He.
To help meet your business and private printing needs successfully, we have just the right products and services. At Appointed Time Printing Limited, we specialize in digital printing, offset printing, packaging and security printing. Our innovative designs and complete professional touch on our print products such as posters, flyers, brochures, magazines, whole cards and any other print solution of your choice ensure that our customers are always happily connected to their audience. With our security printing section, our clients are assured of a highly secured and confidential work process from start to finish. At Appointed Time, our prices are very, very competitive. Locate us at the old GNTC building near Swansea Shopping Arcade, Accra. Contact us on 0501 454165, 0501 454167. Appointed Time Printing Limited. Our printing is the solution.
Welcome back to One on One. My name is Bridget Otu. My guest is lawyer Oliver Baka-Vomowo, who's leading the December protest, 31 days. She said the leaders, the organizers will be on the ground every single day. But for you, you can also be part of it. If you can, why not join them every single day? But there will be thematic areas where your interest will spring out on a particular day. Say, I am interested in police brutality. So on that day, if they're protesting police brutality, you can come out. If you're talking about the terrible healthcare system or healthcare delivery that we have, yes, come out and protest. So I hope that makes it a lot easier for you to join the protest, because really, it's really about, like he said before the break, about giving the microphone to Ghanaians so they can tell you how this democracy has worked for us for the past 6 elections. My guest is still here. So I'm interested to know, before the break we talked about the implications of coming out boldly, with your face to speak on a particular issue. Yeah. It's a national issue. Yeah. And then you lose your job, or the Ghana General Legal Council refuses to call you to the bar, even though you knew 2 days prior that you were already, or some sort of, you have already been called to the bar.
I mean, I think that one of the things which is why we are here is that there's so many institutions and power sectors in this country that are comfortable with the system that we have. That the system tenders to them. Think about the people in the General Legal Council, for instance. They're creme de la creme of our society. They get police protection. They get all kinds of juicy allowances. They're on the Article 71 office holders, primarily. They retire on their benefits and things like that. I worked in the International Court of Justice. Yeah. I worked for the President of the International Court of Justice. When we closed from the court, we both came out of the gates and we took the tram and we went home. Not in this society. Yeah. They live like Arabian princesses. Yeah. They do not want our society in the face of it to change. They do not want the demands of what we are asking for to evolve. And so the way in which they contribute to the maintenance of the systems is to be able to bang the cudgel and punish people who speak up and come out against it. This is what happened with our governor in her issue. And I think that so many times we are so distracted about our differences.
No, but so I'm interested in Ama Governor because, first of all, have you spoken to her? Have you had the opportunity? Yes. How is she doing?
She's completely devastated. I think it's taken
a
huge
mental
tweeted.
Toll. I haven't seen.
It's taken a huge mental toll on her. And even her parents. I've spoken to the parents. I've spoken to her as well. And it's really, really tough. There's somebody who wants to live her life in terms of feels the demand to join a particular generational movement demanding change in the face of our institution. She didn't come there to protest the General Legal Council.
She didn't.
And even
she was asked the question directly, and she said, I plead the fifth.
Yeah. Yes, so she didn't do that.
Because she did not speak to that. She only said, yes, I've been called to the bar. Somebody made frivolous accusations against me, and they lost. I mean, are we saying that she was not entitled?
We don't even know who made the allegations. Somebody signed a statement as Hajia Siduri with Richard Delaskai's number.
Right.
He claims that he did not do it.
Yeah.
So we do not even know on what basis they acted. Yeah. But now you issue a person with a statement that says, we're refusing to call you to the bar because of elements of your public conduct.
Yes,
what does that mean?
But I'm even looking at here, elements of public conduct. Assuming, right, I'm a governor, has even tried to fit in to do what the General Legal Council wants to see at the very least, until she's called to the bar. She's done that. Yeah. if for anything, her only public appearance was during the OccupyJulorbiHouse.
Absolutely.
And what did she do? She did absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I genuinely believe that the persons in there, I genuinely believe, and this is my opinion, that one, they were acting also on the basis of extreme homophobia, which would be unconstitutional, and they are unable to say that to themselves. And I think it's disappointing.
Because making that known will attract international condemnation.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I think that it's disappointing that persons who placed in positions of public trust that would act on the basis of their individual prejudices. That when you are in those positions, we all have differences and different opinions about different people. We have the different prejudices. But when we are put in certain positions, we are called upon to ensure that our personal prejudices do not interfere with our work. I think that's what has happened. Every single lawyer we've spoken to about Ama Governor's case say that they think that the council acted illegally, but that they are advising her not to try to go to court because the egos of those affected will be driven by their egos to do something. This for me is a vote of no confidence in these people, and they believe that they act based on their egos and personal prejudices. And it's disappointing to say the least. That's not the society we want to build. So, and I'm disappointed by these persons who continue to hold those institutions and use them in that regard. My hope is that legislation that Havi Sosu is pushing would break up the General Legal Council and make it a thing of the past. It's a relic of the past, and that these persons are persons who are refusing to give up power.
What more does she need to do? I mean, I'm not saying that, she has to change who she is, but just so she could pass. What more can she do?
That's the thing. Like, even legally speaking, if you think that there's a particular public conduct...
She's not been charged with any crime.
You haven't even told the person what it is wrong with it, so the person can address it. There's nothing. This is that we have the power, we want to show you where the power lies. And I think that it is diminishing of the persons who are there, that if they think that they are big men, it makes them small in my eyes, to be honest.
I wish I could remember the exact quote from the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokunu, when she stands behind the podium and says that, I was even surprised that this thing received this uproar that it did. And we are saying, were you surprised by her demeanor, tone, and stature of what she thinks of Ama Governor's character?
Absolutely. I think it was diminishing of her in the platform and her office. I think even the moral bankruptcy of it is that seeing videos of her calling her own daughter to the bar.
And she's so happy.
For me, it's a person who has not reflected enough on her role and what that means to other people who deserve the same equal justice and opportunity. And I'm very disappointed in it. I mean, I've decided to keep throughout the year, right? I decided not to comment on Ama Governor because I've kind of understood that comments by persons like myself the persons on the council.
Make it harder for
them. And I know that they are ego-driven, and I said that, you know what? I was going to be interested in a young woman's future, and I was not going to say anything about it. And then they do this again, and you know that the system refuses to learn or grow up.
Okay. I wish I could, get the exact tweet that you put out when the statement first came out. I remember seeing the statement of, 2 days saying that, look, we will still monitor your conduct, until such a time that we think that, Ama Governor, could be called to the bar, but for now, she's out. And this was 2 days. 2 days, and that's the most traumatic part. I can't even begin to imagine.
But let me tell you what. Ama had showed up at the International Conference Center, which was the day they were supposed to do rehearsals to be called to the bar. When she went there, the security men accosted her and told her that they have been given strict instructions to prevent her from entering. But if she wanted to loiter about, she can, but they are not to allow her to enter there. It was there, finding out then, it's when they quickly went to rush and bring that letter to come and give to her. That's what happened. These are persons who are cowards, who for so long knew that whatever they were planning and strung this young lady along, that she got no fair opportunity to be able to defend herself, and this is what they did. And I think that it's really, for somebody who is part of the legal profession, to think that these persons are supposed to be custodians of the profession brings me such shame.
And you said something that, if looking at your activism and how vocal you are, and the fact that you've already been called to the bar, that if you were to be in this position where Ama is, do the public think that you will be called to the bar? And the answer is that you will not be called to the bar.
And that's telling,
but
right?
It's not ironic and
that's
also
telling.
tragic to an institution that's supposed to be the opposite of what they are doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that they have stopped in trying to find ways to disbar me. I don't think they have. In fact, it's interesting to me that while I am being tried for treason, the General Legal Council has entertained a petition from somebody claiming that I should be disbarred, which I responded to over a year, almost 2 years now, and they have refused to give feedback on what that is. But when Masuelo Pokwajiman, who was director of the Ghana School of Law, who they set up a committee and found that he had misconducted himself in the room, and for which reason he had to step aside. When somebody brought a petition against him at the General Legal Council, the Chief Justice wrote to the president saying that they haven't finished with the matter, and so they are not entertaining it, and so they're not going to even have him to respond. While I am still being prosecuted on the same matter, I was asked to respond to it. I mean, it speaks to a particular institution that there's no laid down standards. People do what they please and what they can because they have no respect for the authority of law. An example is that even the Supreme Court itself has ruled that when people are writing the bar, it is illegal to tell them to sign that they can't look into their scripts and whatever it is. But yet the same General Legal Council continues to do this thing with persons who are at the Supreme Court on it. It speaks to you that it is power that is operating, and it's a system that must change. And it's a country, and these are some of the things that when people say that this is why I occupy Julorbihouse, it's because of these Julobis.
So Ama needs to be quiet for the next 1 year.
I think it will take an extreme level of shame.
In terms of academics,
I have no idea.
I have seen her results. I've seen part of it. I mean, she's an A student.
Absolutely.
She's a brilliant student.
Absolutely.
You can't take that away.
Absolutely.
And then you have young people in some of the comment sections say, yes, we need to have moral. There's a certain, hypocrisy to morality.
I think that this is something that we shouldn't take for granted.
Yeah.
I think people are unable to separate their own
personal prejudice.
Yes, the personal prejudices. So whatever personal or religious opinion you have on the question of perceived sexuality from what justice should be.
Yeah.
We want to be able to create a society, and one of my oaths as a lawyer is to be able to create a society where, irrespective of who you are, your rights are respected. But if young people are saying that because of Ama's perceived sexuality, whatever the General Legal Council does to her stops her from practicing her profession, is fine. It explains the kind of oppression that they deal with on a day-to-day, but are unable to connect why other people in other circumstances treat them the way they are treated, whether because their parents are poor, their parents have no money, or whatever social situation that they may be in, which is the basis of their own oppression. And I've said that I think that we Ghanaians are people who are all oppressed people who are sharing on the oppression of others.
Is a view that the state, the religious institutions support. Like, it speaks to the predominant.
It doesn't mean, it is not Christ-like, if you think about it. Because what the whole essence of Christ and the prostitute who said, who is without sin cast the first stone, speaks directly to the idea that everybody deserves a fair chance to it. Even the whole Christian message that let he who has ears, let him hear, speaks to the idea that everybody must have an equal stake in the ability to seek redemption for themselves. So each is entitled to their own salvation. And nobody can say that I am a better Christian than another, and for which reason that person must not have the chance to their livelihood. What kind of religious person are you? It undermines your own faith, I think.
I remember in our last interview, we talked about the politicization of the GBA, and when President Mahama spoke and said, okay, so then we'll balance it out by putting NDC, and it's a thing that, obviously government dismissed that it doesn't exist. Are you seeing a different kind of GBA now, following comments by President Akufo-Addo, in trying to disassociate, the GBA trying to disassociate itself? Are we seeing a new GBA? What is happening now with the GBA?
Listen, I think that what we are seeing within the GBA is a lot of people don't know this. A lot of the things that are being said it's not a GBA acting with a common mind. There are persons within the GBA who think that they have to do the right thing. And for which reason...
So that's opposition to
Yes, and I know for a fact that the statement criticizing the president's comments at the bar conference came not from the president of the Ghana Bar Association. It came from...
Because he would be a party person.
Yes. Well, I don't know about his particular affiliation. But what I do know is that there are now persons within the GBA who now, the message of demanding a different GBA is resonating with, which then are then seizing their authority and independence to speak even when the machinery of the GBA is being blocked by persons who do not want his voice to be heard.
Is that a good start?
I think that somehow the institution has to implode from the inside in order to reform itself. And I think that that's important. So if this is what's happening, then perhaps that's the kind of internal checks that need to happen to be able to push the institution in a particular direction. But mind you, the GBA had lawyers who were arrested as part of the protest. There are persons, these are protesters. There are persons who came to represent people who were arrested and even assaulted in the process. So far, the GBA hasn't said anything about any of that.
So the lawyers, speaking of the lawyers, one of the lawyers who was assaulted, there was actually an internal memo of condemnation, but it wasn't public. Why?
So this is the thing again. It did not come from the national, it came from the Greater Accra Regional Branch, who were then saying that, no, we have to do something. What has national done about it? So I think that the only way forward is for the different aspects of the GBA to find their voice. That is the only way we can push the institution. And that is important, I think.
Do you see that happening? I mean, of course, we're seeing with these signs of, Greater Accra responding to, look, our member being assaulted, we must speak out. And how long do you think it will take? I mean, is this cycle, is it the next election cycle? What do you see happening?
I think that what we are seeing more and more is your lawyers demanding more different from the GBA. One of the things that is going to hurt the GBA, and that's one of the things I'm championing, is people withholding their dues. The GBA collects millions of cedis from lawyers year to year. That in the annual fees, over how many, now we have 1,000 lawyers. Out of those 1,000 lawyers, they're making at their renewal for solicitors' licenses 800,000 at least.
Wow.
So like with every person combined, millions. The way to hurt them is for people withholding their dues and saying that I don't consider myself a member of the Ghana Bar, and I don't see what it does for me. I think that when we start to hurt their bottom line,
by the way,
they organize a party at the end of the year, which they call the Bar Conference, where their leadership then find an opportunity to sexually harass women. So that's
you know the funny thing. It's interesting you mentioned that they sexually harass women. I was like, okay, so the GBA at some point was actually being headed by somebody who is alleged to have harassed women, sexually harassed women severally. I mean, he taught me, so I also know that, but women don't want to come forward and talk about them. But they would rather cover and protect such a person than allow someone who freely says, like, I'm a governor, say, okay, this is who I am, and say that person is disgracing you.
I think you're talking about Anthony Forson here.
Yes.
Listen, I think one of the things that he himself, to this day, would deal with a lot is the fact that there was no process put in place to give him the opportunity to clear his name, if you believe so.
Right.
And I think that the absence of processes undermines an institution in the long run. And I think that's one of the issues they're having. In fact, I have so many female lawyers in my inbox who have talked about sexual harassment from persons within the profession and are unable to speak up. A lot of the times when they want to talk about their experiences, they are warned and told that this will come after you or that will come after you. And I think that is a bad reputation for GBA to have. The question of sexual harassment, I don't know the GBA. The GBA has no policy on sexual harassment, but it's a big problem. It is a big problem in law firms across the country that they need to deal with much more headstrong than they are taking a position on.
Do you see lawyers as the most, I mean, of course, there are more oppressed groups, but do you see lawyers as rather lawyer voices being silenced?
To be honest, I have no sympathy for persons who hold privilege and refuse to use their privilege. Now think about it. Even in terms of police harassments on the street, what is the GBA's response? It prints bus tickets for its members. So that when the police see them, they say, lawyers, let you go.
Yes.
And institutions whose way out of any social problem is elitism is an institution that deserves no respect. I think that there's so many lawyers who, of course, and I agree that institutions and whatever it is has been weaponized against lawyers a lot of the times. But I also think that you can't speak up and that a lot more lawyers need to be able to do a pushback. They have what it takes to become respected. But if you're only focused on yourself and living in silos, you're unable to be able to use the full amplitude of what your power and privilege is to be able to help fix social problems. And so I don't want to then lump them in terms of victims. If persons of your training and kind of wealth you have accumulated in this republic,
but if you're seeing so if you're seeing the attack, the avalanche of attack, and the deafening silence, right, from GBA and its associate members, why would any lawyers?
But I tell you what, think about the civil rights movement. The fight wasn't only left to black people to fight. That persons within comfortable spaces in white society put themselves on the line. The freedom trains, they rode them. They went to sit in the coffee shops that did not allow black people to enter them. They put their bodies on the line and were beaten. That's what your privilege is supposed to be for. It is not to then say that, then what? You check out and allow ordinary citizens to feel the full brunt of it? So yes, I'm not saying that you're not going to suffer anything, but I'm saying that put your privilege on the line for others. That is what the true calling of what a lawyer is. But if you then decide to check out for what your wealth, your knowledge, and power and prestige is, what then is the average Joe going to do? And I have to commend the young lawyers who mobilized themselves to provide support to the protesters who were arrested. These were things that older lawyers have not done before. This was something that the Ghana Bar has not done before.
Right.
This is something that the Ghana Bar Association, if I was head of the Ghana Bar Association, every protest will make sure that we have lawyers on standby to provide pro bono support to people. That's what you show that you're a participant in this democracy and you care about it. So the fact that young lawyers, think about it, those who are at the bottom of the profession, say to themselves that we do not care what you people are doing. These are persons who we went to school with. These are persons of our generation who show up. Shows me that the ability for people, lawyers, to put their privilege on the line and support exists. And I commend them for what they did.
Okay. All right. And then, the issue about demanding the resignation of the president. There are some who say, okay, he's not going to resign. Why are you saying that? Does that mean you don't have focus? You don't know what you're doing? I've heard all of that. You're asking for the resignation. What else? I think there was...
No, we asked that he resign or we force Parliament to impeach him.
To impeach him. All right. So they're saying he won't resign.
Yeah.
So then why are you asking of him when you know the answer?
Yeah. Listen, November 5th, I went on Nana Must Go protest. He hasn't resigned yet. I have never started my demands as a young person in this democracy with defeat. The idea that because somebody else would refuse to do something, for which reason I must stop myself. The Bank of Ghana governor has not stepped down when the NDC went on for demanding for him to resign. The motorway has not been fixed. When we started championing fixed motorway. The fact that they are refusing to do something is because we've created a political environment and culture that allows them to get away with it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that if we believe and truly believe that this government that is led by this individual has failed us as Ghanaians, and that it is democratically just for us to demand for him to resign, we should demand what is truly on our chest. Let us not shy away from it in the belief, yes, we haven't created the whole social environment for that, but we have to build it there.
Okay.
And that includes normalizing the belief that we can carry the message and demand the president to resign. Okay. And that is Ghanaian and democratic. So we are going to do that and demand that. But as you've seen in terms of the protest format, there's so many other social issues that are being invited to protest and demand change for. If you truly believe that on the day where people are saying that just resign and the placards are carrying the message of resignation, you don't believe in that, wait for the Fix Our Roads one and show up on that day. But I truly believe that we have to be able to create a situation where Ghanaians are comfortable in demanding that their leaders step aside, as happens in other democracies. Okay. And that's truly just.
I wanted to get your thoughts on lawyer Akoto-Ampao. Unfortunately, we got the news that he had passed. Prior to that, most of you know him from the election petition, extremely vocal, brilliant lawyer. And also, he happened to be your lawyer?
Yes.
At some point, I think I saw him at a process. He was holding the
Yes,
placard.
he did. He was one of the conveners of the what's the name again? Coalition of Concerned Citizens.
Yes. That's where I saw the.
Yes, I think it's only persons who do. I think a lot of people got to know Sheshe, mainly through the election petition, and also the idea that he works in Akufo-Addo's firm, and so was a friend of his. But no, he has a long history of activism. He was part of the revolution in the early days. He was part of the true left. One of the things he's always talked about was his worry that the coup that happened destroyed the left movement in Ghana. It's one of the things that he was always pained about, because a lot of them thought that it was an opportunity to build up a true Ghanaian left.
What did he mean to you?
I think for me it's a standard of a lawyer who, despite his own personal opinions on different things, fought for what he thought was right and what people's rights are. So, for instance, he represented him in the treason trial, despite his friendship with the president, knowing the injustice of the charges that were laid against me, and said, you know what, I don't believe in what this is, and it's a test case for the social movement that is ongoing, and I have to be there. In fact, he always used to say that our form of social movement and what we're doing is what will save this country from a possible coup d'etat. So he always said that and believed that passionately. A lot of people who have spoken about him, unaware, for instance, that he led for decades the right to information. He was the head of the Right to Information Coalition, supported that movement because he thought that it would improve our democracy. In recent times, I know that there's been a lot of backlash because he's been one of those who have been vocal around the question of the LGBT issues. And people do not, again, this is where people's morality cloud what a fight for people's human rights means. He's been very clear that the approach, even if we believe that is not what our society is not the approach to the bill and what the bill seeks to do, that we are putting people in harm's way and that this is not Christian-like. So Sheshe truly believed this. And I think that if there are a lot more lawyers who, despite their own professional work, live for their principle, I think this country will be in a better place. I've said that I am not fit to even unlace or lace his shoes, and I truly believe that for the legacy he has done, my hope is that he is awarded with a posthumous national award. If there was anybody more deserving of it, I think the same.
Somebody wants to contribute, as we wrap up, if somebody wants to contribute, is there a number that they can reach out, to support the protest in December, with water? I'm sure we'll have other conversations, but since we're starting early.
So one of the things that we are asking, we rely exclusively on support. Our mobile money number is 0599 100645.
Okay.
And you can go to any of our social media handles as well to be able to reach out to us. As long as any form of support, whether it is material or any kinds of support, we're happy to take them to be able to make the protest a success.
I want to say a big thank you to you. Unfortunately, time's up. I hope that as you listen to him, you are inspired by his words, his commitment and passion to see this country working, truly working, and for the people for which this country was built, and the forefathers on whose blood all of us stand to even utter a word, and on whose on their blood that sometimes we're not even worthy of. Because if you're just terrified by the idea of 30 days, imagine what our great-grandfathers had to do for us to enjoy this democracy that is not functioning. My name is Bridget Otu. Again, thank you very much for joining us.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
Beyond magnificent! Utterly explosive! That is a brilliant hit!
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
Live from OccupyJulorbiHouse Studio, number 9 Dr. Isaac Street, Northridge. This is Newsline.